You see, that's what we're not aware of.
Could you talk some about how we came to be who and what we are today? If you understand the question.
I think I do.
Okay.
I think that we have to look back at a period that I call the Ma'afa. We as Africans were very consciously stripped of our culture. Now, that becomes a platitude. You know, everybody's saying that. Stripped of our culture, but we have to see that we had a strong culture and so forth. But nobody seems to realize the depth of what that means. Being stripped of our culture meant being conditioned to accept ourselves as inferior beings. Okay? It meant that we were conditioned to feel that we had to be dependent on Europeans, dependent on white people, that we could not do things for ourselves and in our own image. That conditioning began with a long period of terrorism, which was very physical, physically manifested. At the same time, there was the breaking of the will. So there was cultural violence, I call it, in the book, as well as the physical violence, which was very important. We then came to a period in which we mistakenly thought we were free. We're now at a point where we think that we have freedom, the ability to be whatever it is that we can be within this society and so forth. Yet what happens is that we are still thinking within a modality that has been determined by those who would oppress us, those who would control us. And we don't see beyond that. So the question for me becomes, who controls how you think? We have the ability to create our own structures, our own theories, our own definitions of reality. To look at the African worldview, to look at, for instance, the Dogon people, to look at the Kemetic people, to look at our own people who have, even look at Carter G. Woodson, for instance, the miseducation of the Negro, which I don't think was really ever understood by us. And to use these things as inspirations for the building of institutions, the creation of things, the building our own buildings. We have the ability to do that. So it's almost like we've been conditioned so well through such a long process that now it is us who are enslaving ourselves mentally.
Because the job has already been...
The job has been done. It would be so easy, in one sense, for us to undo it. That's what I'm saying in this book. Because the way the system of European control works is that you have to accept a concept of reality, which makes them superior.
Define storytelling for young Africans to express themselves with the Holy Spirit, as in theater, as in dance, as in singing, as in performing and embodying the Holy Spirit. How do you see that potential for our liberation?
Okay, so let me start by saying there is some significance between basic storytelling and biblical storytelling. So I am a professional biblical storyteller. And with that being said, I guess I want to address this. Well, let me give you what most people think basic storytelling would be defined as. It's about human communication and culture. It helps to bring context to a conversation. It brings some connection. It's used in education and learning. They look at it as being inspirational and motivational. It really can persuade and influence. Of course, it has some emotional implications to it. In some cases, it allows a person to build empathy. And it's definitely entertainment. It's a part of entertainment. When you think about a comedian that can tell a good story and then end it with a punchline, then that is one of the best ways to explain it as entertainment. We would love for a storyteller to be a leader. A storyteller can be a historian. A storyteller can be a healer, because stories can be healing. Storytelling is timeless. Storytelling is universal. Everyone can connect with the story. But now, if we want to talk about biblical storytelling, the personalities, the persons may change, but a lot of the stories and decisions intersect.
Yes.
And so across, when you talk about being in an interfaith setting, there are some similarities to the stories and how those specific faith traditions approach their stories, how they handle the stories, how they reverence the stories. And all of that is awesome dialogue. Where Paul was writing to the church at Philippi. Now he was writing from prison. Yeah. And so that's something else that you can think about with the rate of incarceration. How people tend to throw away persons who are incarcerated. They still have a story to tell.
Indeed.
And my hope is that more of them are encouraged to tell their stories, whether it's now that we are so digitally active. For me, that's even better, so that we can see them tell their stories, but encourage them to write their stories, so that they can share their experiences long beyond their specific lifespan. That's another importance of storytelling. When you pass a story, it'll exist beyond you. It actually will give your life longevity.